Okay, I'm just going to show you a real quick video on how to get a Gen 4 slide MOS. Any Gen 4 slide, but this particular one is an MOS to fit on a Gen 3 frame. So I've done this before just because I had a Gen 3 frame laying around and Gen 4, and well, actually I didn't have a Gen 4 slide, but I had a Gen 3 frame laying around, and Gen 3 slides are outrageous on eBay, partly because of California. They have some sort of law on what, depending on the year of the gun manufacturer that made the weapon, only certain ones are on roster and off roster. Whatever the case may be, I don't live there, so it doesn't matter to me. But because of it, it has drove the price up on Gen 3s. And also I think it's because of something about the patent on the Gen 3 frames. The poly 80 frames can be made and whatnot. So anyways, I've seen some videos out there on how to mod the frame to accept the Gen 4 slide. The only issue is I don't think they did a very good job. And what I've done in the past and the tools I've made, anybody has a drill, anybody's got some sandpaper, you may have to go buy some to the proper size, but I have some 80 and 320 is about all I needed. Was an 80 grit for the heavy use and then a 320 for the polishing, and that's gotten it done for me just fine. So well, first of all, the issue with a Gen 4 slide is that the dust cover here, that's all it is a dimensional issue. It won't slide on all the way. And then of course the guide rod spring, recoil spring that comes with the Gen 4 is larger circumference to handle that. But an easy eBay, 20 bucks, you can buy a little piece like this that goes in there and put your barrel back in, and you can just get an aftermarket Gen 3 stainless steel recoil spring, which I prefer anyways over the factories, and it fits right in there. And now you have the Gen 4 slide with a Gen 3 recoil guide rod. So that's step one. So that gets the problem of the recoil spring from the Gen 4 not fitting in where it needs to go against the firing block. And also this thing's just too big. So what you do is, by getting the Gen 3, if you can see that, the Gen 3 recoil spring versus the Gen 4, the back plate is larger. That's where your guide rod, recoil guide rod, fits right against. Once you slide the slide on, it fits right there. Okay, so there's that. This is an unmodified Gen 3 slide. Whoops, sorry. This one is modified. This one is unmodified. Real quick. Can you tell? Modded. So there's no rough sanding. All I did was take a 3/8 wood dowel, cut it down to about the size I wanted to be able to chuck into my drill. I got a roll of sandpaper and some double-sided tape. I rolled it up there to circumference that I wanted to match. I wanted to match the circumference of that. And I with a little bit of trial, I added a layer. I got pretty close. I would start off smaller than what you need. And then I added a layer, stuck it, added a layer, and then all I did was chuck this. I won't chuck it for now, just so purposes of showing you. And then you put it in there, and you just spin away. So I guess I will show you that my hand was a poorly executed demonstration. So I would just lay this in here. Now this one's already been polished. This is my 320 sandpaper. I initially started off with my 80. And as you can see, this doesn't fit on my modded one. I'm not gonna mod this one just yet because I'm still running a Gen 3 slide. And I don't wanna do that just yet. But this one has been sanded already. And as you can see, it fits. Trying to see, fits that perfectly. And so I would just brace this. I would get down here like this. And I would just polish away or sand away. This is my polishing one. This was my sanding one. Once I got it down to the right fit, all I would do, I would take the barrel out and the recoil spring out, wherever I put that right there. And I would just do practice or slide tests. I would just slide it. Is it gonna fit? Is it gonna fit? And then voila. So put that on there. Find my eBay Gen 3 to 4 guide rod adapter. Pop that in there. And I can even pull the trigger, pull that back, and it still resets. Trigger still back. You know it's safe when trigger pull back, pull the slide back just a little bit without racking it, and if it resets, that's what I've been told. That kind of tells you if your recoil spring is too weak, but you can also use that for a test as if the front of this is dragging on your dust cover, and it's not. I mean, simple as that. Gen 4 on a Gen 3 frame. You know it's a Gen 3 because of the mag release. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I hope this comes up on camera real good. I mean, I think that's a real good job. Let me get it underneath the light right there. I mean, that's really, here, I'll hold this one next to it. So it took just a little bit out, but nothing major. This is very stout. This is not wobbly. Some of the P80s out there I've seen a mod, the dimension of the plastic is not, because of the Picatinny rail, it's not as robust as a factory Glock. This thing is not going anywhere. If I had a rail light, I'd mount it on here, which I plan to get. I just don't have one with me right now. And I don't see any issues with it. I mean, even the factory one, without any modification, has some flex. But I mean, this is all the same. And one thing I forgot to mention, prior to doing any of this, what you want to do is you want to put a Gen 3 slide on it first. Prior to any of that, let me Let me pop this guy right off. Prior to any of that, you want to put a Gen 3. So this is a Gen 3 slide, Gen 3 frame, unmodded. This is not modded. This is how it looks from the factory. And actually, you see the slop in there? This is sloppy. On a Gen 3. This is full Gen 3. But like what I was getting to was prior to just starting up and sanding, a lot of Gen 3 frames have the pig nose where it just curls up on the end here. See how this one is very flat. This one had the curling problem also, but I've corrected it. And you must correct. If yours has that issue, you must correct it prior to sanding. Otherwise, you will sand too much because this will be angled up. And if you sand to accept Gen 4 slide, you'll have to sand too much. So you must correct the pig nose bend sloop up. I wish I had one here to show you. I don't. Actually, I do have another frame. I have a Glock 21 frame. This one's not that bad. But maybe I can show it. Some are worse than others. I think I already, if you could see a gap. I don't know if that's going to come up on camera. Anyways, you get what I'm saying. If this curls up, you need to correct it. And the way you correct that is you mount a Gen 3 slide on your frame first. And then you have some change. You can start with pennies, if that's what works. You can start with quarters. I think quarters is what I ended up going with. Nickels was too much. Quarters and pennies was too little. But if you get 2 quarters and you pop them in there like that, and you take your heat gun and you kind of just heat the lower up just a little bit, not a whole lot, just a little bit. Heat it, and then just apply, move these to the very corner, and apply some pressure here to straighten that out. And then let it sit. Let it sit for maybe 15 minutes for it to cool. Maybe apply a little more pressure. Pull these out, take a look at it, and you should see a nice straight line. Now you'll be ready to operate your drilling or sanding. So that's one fine note I wanted to make sure. I almost forgot to mention. Let me think, is there anything else? But yeah, what I was going to say was, yeah, you see how sloppy this is? I mean, this is Glock. I mean, really, that doesn't affect the accuracy because your accuracy comes from your lockup of your barrel. So your upper could be as wobbly as shit. And as long as you have a good sight picture, your sights are mounted to your slide. So as wobbly means nothing. But it's just a personal preference. And also, I think I've noticed once you put a full mag in it, it puts that pressure on that slide. This is not a full mag. Puts a pressure on the slide. It does stiffen it up. Let me go ahead and throw my modded frame on my Gen 4 slide, and you'll see how much tighter. Because I mean, you see how loose that tolerance is there. I think the factory, I mean, it doesn't look as good, really. I think they did a good job with the Gen 4s. The fatter nose is a nice look. I mean, that's just my preference. I don't know if I've heard anybody else say that, but I do like the way the fatter nose looks. So I mean, there's no wobble. I mean, that is a nice finish. That looks really nice. I really like that. I mean, I really love my Jaegerworks slide, but it's light. But you know what? That heaviness on the top gives it actually does somewhat soften the recoil. I know reciprocating weight often is not touted as something you want, but for whatever reason, it's kind of a nice feel. I used to not want a Glock MOS just because of the mounting plates. I've heard were so terrible, which they still are terrible. But now there's plenty of aftermarket companies that make mounting plates for these that are rock solid. Stage Dynamics has reviewed a ton of them, or at least 2 of them that I know of that are reviewed a ton of them, but 2 of them that I know have passed his test. So that was my idea behind getting this. I think I like the idea of stock, even though I did mod this and it's not 100% stock. It's built off of stock parts, not heavily modded, just lightly modded. All you need is a drill, some 80, some 320, a 3/8 inch wooden dowel, a heat gun, and you're good to go. Well, thank you. I hope this helps someone out. I know the crappy other videos that were out there helped me out a little bit, inspired me to figure out how to do it better. And well, there you are.